I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education for the School District of Baraboo for Monday, July 23rd, 2012, to order with roll call. Mr. Cummings?
Here.
Mr. McNevin?
Here.
Mr. Meering?
Here.
Mr. Mortimer?
Here.
Ms. Riley?
Here.
Mr. Dedro?
Here.
And Bodak here. Continue with the pledge, which is behind the counter. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would entertain the approval of a resolution for the minutes of the July 9th, 2012 meeting as printed.
I move to approve the minutes of the July 9th meeting as printed, with one change is that to the July 20, item C1 carried unanimously. I believe I took an abstention. Gary, I think you took an abstention to missing the June 25th meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we both abstained on that. So that's the only change that I would make to the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay. Hearing the motion for the correction, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion approval for the minutes with the added correction carried. Brings us to the portion of the agenda for correspondence. I have none to introduce tonight under the board members.
I have one correspondence. This is with Senator Olson. Come November, we will not be in his district. I thanked him for his efforts, but part of it, the other reason for the letter was also the Wisconsin waiver being approved. He was a part of that process, but he said he would continue to listen to us even when he changes districts. So that's my correspondence.
Any other board members with correspondence? Any administrative correspondence? Hearing none, brings us to public viewpoints. Do we have anyone here for public viewpoints tonight? Any public viewpoints? Okay, yes.
John Megan, Town of Greenfield. Prior to the board going into closed session tonight to receive an update on negotiations and discussing negotiation strategy, I respectfully request each board member to make a brief statement on whether or not they have completed a job application within the past 12 months to work for the school district of Baraboo, and whether or not the position applied for would be covered by either the BEA or SEO contracts to be discussed in closed session. Thank you.
Any other public viewpoints? Any other public viewpoints? Any other public viewpoints? Hearing none. To move on to reports. First up, we have the middle school wall project, and we have a copy in front of you. I think all board members have it, which was an update as of the 19th. So between Dr. Ritzenthaler and Martha, you can walk us through what we're looking at.
Yeah, this is part of a process that Martha and I have been working on to start to implement for the board so that we can have ongoing information about large capital projects that we have in place. We know that these have been discussed in detail at BG&T, but I think it would be helpful to not only have the narrative pieces for our middle school wall and track, but also to have the financial accounting of that. So Martha has put together also a spreadsheet for you, and it took us a little bit of time to kind of backtrack since the beginning of this project because our business office didn't have those procedures in place from the beginning of these processes. So we put a lot of work to this, and it's something that you can expect to see on a regular basis in the future. We will get this out. We'll try to get it out a week before any meetings and discussions so that you have time to thoroughly review it. But looking at the middle school wall project, Patrick Acker put this together. As you know, we're working on phase 1 this summer, and all of you know what's involved with that. But looking at the progress there, we're approximately 40% completion of the project right now. We're on schedule. The weather has been cooperative for us. for the most part. And you can see that the windows will be coming shortly here in the next couple of weeks. Change orders have been in the amount of $38,000. That's been under the amount that has been allocated for this project. So that's the narrative, and I'll let Martha explain the financial piece.
So on the spreadsheet that shows the contracted project, I just listed out the various costs of Phase 1 and Phase 2, as well as the contingency, which gets us to the full contract amount of $1.1 million. That was approved on April 30th of 2012 with Vogel Brothers, and that was approved by the board. The project costs that were budgeted in last year's budget were $250,000, which leaves $851,000 to be covered by fund balance. And then that bottom part, I'm just showing that if we use fund balance, which we will, it will reduce our fund balance as a percentage of expenditures to just under 16%.
And what is it currently, Martha?
A little over 18%.
And we need to be really above 15, isn't that like the...
To get the best rating we
Yeah.
do for borrowing.
Okay, so we're still there. One question, Phase 2, Phase 1, we're getting close to completing, is that correct?
50%.
What was the figure?
40%.
40%.
Of the overall
No, that's
project.
of the overall.
Right, overall project.
Okay, but Phase 1 will be completed this summer?
Yes.
And then Phase 2 will be done next year?
Correct.
Yes.
We're just over 50% completed with Phase 1.
Okay.
It's a tight timeline, but so far, things have been moving fairly well with the project.
But for clarification, at the completion of Phase 1 and Phase 2, that does not finish the middle school, correct? For those of you on the BG&T committee? There's additional
We anticipate that there would be additional work.
There's additional walls and support structure to look at as we go around the whole
Yeah,
building.
to at least examine, like.
But
we
this will
have.
take up the bulk of the heavy-duty stuff. There's some walls, like there's some small walls up the top and some that has no windows and what have you. Easier. Yeah, that takes the bulk of it.
Anything else, any other questions? I'd like to suggest to the chair of the BG&T committee and to Mr. Mortimer that we, the three of us, try and find a time sometime in the next week and a half to 2 weeks that we can set a meeting during the day to walk through the middle school or walk through the middle school project and also the track renovation project. I think that it's time that we firsthand, the three of us, see what's going on.
I think it
there.
would be beneficial if you do that, though, to make sure that Patrick is there, so that if you have questions, he's right there and he can address them at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm not suggesting we show up unannounced, but I just think...
You could even stop in and see the pool. I'm gonna keep bringing it up, just so you know.
And it would be, because it's a meeting, it still would be an open meeting, so you can go, Sean.
Between meetings here, I'll get all you guys and figure out whether we can.
Okay, fantastic.
Well, the pool should be one thing that's looked at anyway because of those insulation falling, correct?
Well, I think so.
Well, let's not get into a discussion on that, though, it's not
I
agendized.
wouldn't looked at it yet. Good job, John.
We can put it on the BG&T agenda.
Hey, I digress, I apologize.
Anything else on the middle school wall project? Hearing nothing additional on that, let's move to the track renovation project. And I think we're going to have kind of a tag team on the report here. Martha or Crystal, if you want to start.
Well, and Aaron, are you prepared to kind of talk about where we at with that, with the progress of it? Because you've been monitoring it very closely since you've been on site here at the high school. And again, you'll find a narrative provided by Mr. Acker that explains the work being done on the field and some of the work done around that field. Aaron, do you want to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah,
on that?
everything's done on the interior of the track gutter. So that's ready to roll, and they're irrigating that pretty regularly. And then they've started the base work for the track itself, and they are hoping, barring any heavy rains, that they can put asphalt down at the end of this week, including all sidewalks and entries. So by the end of the week, it'll start to look more like a track.
And-
So right on schedule. And the weather has helped us, which hasn't helped many other people. It's helped our project.
I know it's green and the grass is green. Is it well established? I mean, the first
Yeah.
football game isn't going to tear it all to shreds, is it?
We're still having a discussion about that. A lot depends on this next
suppose.
month. But it's right where they want it to be, and it just had its first treatment this weekend, where they got rid of some of the weeds and such. So yeah, they think it's in a good spot.
And so you'll see that there's 2 financial pieces that accompany that progress report. And one deals with the district support of the program, and then we've got a separate spreadsheet or accounting of the donations. And we wanted to be very specific because there's been some things communicated in the paper that haven't been totally accurate with that piece. So we made sure that we separated that out, and I think I'm going to ask Martha to go through each one of those line items when you get to that.
Sure. So again, with the contracted project spreadsheet, I listed the 2 amounts that were board approved on October 24th, 2011. You approved the point of beginning contract for $58,000. And then on April 9th, 2012, you approved multiple contracts for a total of $816,007. There have been 2 significant change orders. One is the electrical line relocation due to the placement of the long jump, and also the replacement of the storm sewer under the track for almost $34,000. Some of the projects that are going to be supported by fundraising are the scoreboard for approximately $38,000 and the entry gate for just under $37,000. So those are deductions from that original contract that was approved by the board. And then the brick seating is a project that I believe is not going to be done at this time, and that was $16,000. So the revised project cost came down to $825,000, just over $825,000. We budgeted $500,000 in last year's budget, which leaves us with just over $325,000 to be paid for out of fund balance. And again, I showed you kind of how that will affect fund balance. This project alone would bring it down to just under 18% of fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. If we looked at the 2 in total, which I'm guessing might be the next question, we'd come down to about 15%. So we'd still be okay with fund balance. Moving
Before
on
we take questions, yeah, let's go through the donations.
Sure.
Because that might clarify things a little bit for people that might not be as familiar with this project.
Sure. So for fundraising, as of, I'll say this morning because it sounds like it's already changed tonight. As of this morning, we have in cash $168,438, which is awesome. Great job, Erin. And we've I've put here what those monies are specifically going towards. So we've got the entire cost of the scoreboard covered. We've got the entire cost of the entry gate covered, as well as the donor plaques and the sound system. And then phase 2 of the project would include bleachers, a press box, and some storage under the bleachers. And I have some estimated costs there. By no means are they exact. So we've already collected just over 20% of what we believe the bleachers would cost. So those are the three next projects for fundraising to kind of help us reach our goal.
These would be for next year, correct? Bleachers, press box, storage, they're for next year, if we get the money.
Yeah.
It depends on the money, yes.
Erin, do you want to elaborate on any of that? Because I know that you've had conversations with people that are waiting for us to get to phase 2. Because of the donor recognition, they have talked about larger pledges.
Yeah, we took in $44,000 this year in business sponsorship that will be advertised around the scoreboard and the entry gates. And the rest of it was just in-cash donations to the project. And speaking with those people and kind of sharing with them phase 1, phase 2, what things would look like, there were several businesses that were more eager to donate to a phase 2 portion where they can put their name on a press box or to see a structure like a bleacher set being built or a concession stand restroom. So.
And what kind of pledges would that take for that type of recognition?
Naming rights for the press box are $100,000, and we had a couple people who expressed some interest in that, which would put us at a pretty good place. And from there, we're just going to go out and ask for cash donations for the rest. We've ordered 5 signboards. 2 of them are going to be put in this year that are going to recognize the donors that have already contributed. The middle one, the third one, is going to be a map of the facility, and the other 2 are going to be for future donations. So those 2 aren't going to go in immediately, but we're going to order them now since we fundraised the money for it. So that when we continue to add sponsors, we can add signage as we go.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Then, since the bleachers, the press box, and the storage are not yet, those funds are not yet raised, will we use the bleachers that we already have on hand? We'll just carry on?
Yeah, everything will stay the same right now. Part of the project design was to do some legwork for the future stadium setup, so that's all being done right now.
And even if we did have the funds raised, you know, we always have that time element in the summer. There's only so much that we can complete in that window. So we would be looking at next year.
Aaron, is the press box part of the bleacher package like it is now? That
One
it's,
unit.
It's one unit?
Yeah.
So you can't do just the press box without the bleachers?
They call them stadiums if they're raised up. So the new stadium package is built on I-beams. So you have two or three big I-beams running, you know, the span of the bleacher set, and then you have I-beams supporting them. So that the underneath is wide open, and that's where the storage would come in. It's a waterproof decking with tin sides, and you can have garage doors and regular access doors in there. So we would look at having both of them enclosed to give us some larger areas for storage. And it runs right up to the edge of the track, and they have some gates in the front that you can put hurdles in, pull hurdle carts in and out very quickly. So yeah, it's all one big package, and those I-beams that run up the middle, the press box sits right on the back of those.
So storage is just like sports storage, like track, football, that type of equipment?
Yeah, it depends.
Okay. One other question, again, we talk about donations, we talk about cash donations. There have been some donations that have been made in kind. Do we have a way that we can, maybe some of these were made anonymously and want to stay that way?
A couple were.
Okay, but even in that case, could we even find a way to say anonymous donations of in-kind, might have been materials or something, so that the public would know that there have been other contributions to the project that maybe haven't been cash, but there is obviously a value to it.
So far we have about $15,000 in in-kind donations through the project.
Yeah, I think we should find some way to, at least so the public understands that those are out there,
Yeah,
whether they're recognized or not.
I'll ask the companies involved and see what they think.
Okay, all right, sounds good, thank you.
What, did we have bathrooms and figured also in that plan?
What's that?
Didn't we have bathrooms figured eventually?
Yeah, bathrooms, concession stand.
So that's not in this.
No, and that's a part of the project that can happen, or it doesn't have to happen right at the same time. Optimally, it'd be nice if we could at the same time. We talked about maybe a future building trades project. You know, if the housing market slows or whatever, it's something that our kids could still build and save us some cash. So it's definitely, it hasn't been drawn up. We don't know the size or scale of the building. We don't know an estimated cost of it, so we didn't put it on there.
Does the bleacher proposal include any bleachers on the west side of the field? Or is this all bleachers that are on the east side?
This proposal is all west side.
So the bleachers that are on the east side would remain?
Yes.
The press box would flip to the other side?
Press box that's currently there would stay, and then the new press box for the home side would be there. So we would still use that one as long as it doesn't get condemned. And we would continue to use a new one for us. Our home radio, home coaches, home, whatnot.
All right.
Do we really need 2 press boxes?
We probably don't need them, but to replace the one over there, it just didn't make sense. If we're going to switch sides to have a home side on this side, we wanted our press box to be on that side. And the one we have right now is inadequate in terms of space. So instead of just tearing that one down, we're going to leave it as long as it will stand. So we'll use it while it's here.
That would be the guest
press box.
Correct.
That's because the sun will be in their eyes.
Maybe you could sell seats in that VIP, box.
It's a
Hors
sweet-
d'oeuvres and
yeah.
stuff?
There you go.
Any other questions in regards to the track?
So, I hope this is helpful, and if there are additional things, like you mentioned, Doug, the in-kind donations, or different ways that you'd like to see us present this, let Martha know, and
Sure.
we'll work on it.
Just a general comment and appreciation for all the people who have been involved in reaching out to the community and informing them, as well as receiving donations. It's wonderful to go by the track and see it begin to unfold, and the football field, and it's wonderful to see the new ball in the middle school. It does allow us to have a moment of appreciation for the good workmanship that's been done across the board. Just,
How many lanes is the new track?
9.
So there's enough for a board race, right?
Yes.
All right.
As long as it's a wheelbarrow race.
There'd be enough for the board, the administrator, and our business director.
There you go.
You better have a first
Okay,
aid
that's
station.
not it.
That'll be in the press box.
Let's make it high hurdles, too.
Okay, thank you for the update. Thank you, Aaron. Good luck. Keep it up. Brings us to the portion of the agenda entitled Consent. The Finance Committee met earlier. I'll turn to Chair of Finance, Mr. McNevin.
We moved and approved the receipts and disbursements. We recommend them for approval. We just had a couple of questions, and Martha's going to get those out, but I so move.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Cummings. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to personnel recommendations. There is an addition. It's under resignations. If you didn't receive that information, it would be number 2 under resignations. And that is the middle school computer science position, Meg Perron, and that is a late addition, as I said. So if I could entertain a motion for the approval of the resignations of both of those individuals, Tom Demers from the middle school social studies position / language arts, and the computer science.
I move to approve the 2 resignations.
Second.
Motion by Mearing, second by Riley. Any discussion?
I noted in these resignations that the individuals are moving as a result of either a spouse receiving job opportunities somewhere else.
Yes, and Tom Demers actually accepted a contract, but has never actually been working here and has chosen not to relocate.
Thank you. Any further questions? Having a motion and a second, those in favor of the approval of the 2 resignations as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the new hires. Again, included in your board packet. I need to let you know that the recommendation for this and the approval for this is going to be contingent upon the passing of the out-of-state background check, because that's not back yet. Should be back hopefully tomorrow. The in-state background check is back and is fine. So I would ask that we approve that new hire with the contingency that the out-of-state background check be fine. And that is for Laura Alish.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vidro, seconded by Mearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
No, Mr. Mortimer's opposition. Motion carries. Brings us to the postings. Nothing additional to add. Brings us to new business. A little background, and we're going to take these individually so that we can vote on them individually, because there are potential for conflict with one or more of the groups that are in here. So board members, keep that in mind. You'll have the opportunity to address that as it comes up. The Personnel Committee met on the 16th, a week ago, and we, as part of a number of things that we looked at that night, looked at comparable salaries for non-certified staff, and came to the conclusion that the committee wanted to suggest allocating a pool of money to be dispersed amongst these 10 groups that are here. And what we wanted to do was allow our administrative team, with Dr. Ritzenthaler's direction, to look at some specifically that maybe were in misalignment with some other surrounding areas as far as what the compensation was. So we allowed the flexibility to shift more from one to another and vice versa. So I don't know, Dr. Ritzenthaler.
Well, and this is something recent that the Badger superintendents have done, is compiling this data on an annual basis, not only for administrators and teachers, but the different employee classifications that you see here. And we did note that there were several groups that were lagging behind, and I'm not even talking about Badger Conference, I'm talking about lagging behind Reedsburg, Portage, and Sauk, and those districts that are in our immediate area. And the two that were especially noted were our general education assistants and our special education assistants, where the starting pay in our district is just under $9 for one and around $9 for the special ed. And in Portage, Reedsburg, and Sauk are over 12, right at 12 and 11. So this does not bring them up to that level by any means, but it's a start, just like we have with some of the other groups addressed that those fair wages.
I have one question, and again, generally when we look at this, I see a percentage, and in here I'm looking at, what, 47, is this 47 different people that I'm talking about when I'm talking general ed assistants?
That's correct.
Oh, or 65. Knowing that not all people are created equal, there are obviously some that are going to be, but is it just, okay, you're in this category 6%?
That's a really good question, because what we're going to do is look at the schedules that we have in place. There are some increments for increases based on the number of years that they've been with us.
Sure.
So we're not just looking at a starting wage for an employee in that classification, but we're looking at making an increase across the board.
But also the recognition that maybe there are certain people that might be huge contributors to the educational process, and depending upon where they're located or skill sets that they may contribute that may go beyond some educational area, but it's this person has a huge
and
impact.
part of the discussion with some of the directors for some of these programs was that very question too. Are the positions that are within that employee group in alignment, or does one need to be adjusted more than another?
Yes.
And the feedback that I received for all of these areas, that the differential pay between within those groups based on years of experience or the specific classification was okay. So in this case, we are looking at a percentage increase across the board for all of those staff members.
So that means that those who are contributing more and are recognized by their director as contributing more, in the final analysis of that percentage that is devoted to that group, will receive a concomitant amount of increase. If their salary range is slightly higher than their addition of...
For example, food service, there are many different classifications within that, and we also recognize that there's a difference in responsibilities based on size of school and number of students that those individuals are preparing food for. So that differential is already built into the salary schedule, and that was based on input from the directors as well as looking at comparables across the conference.
Do you want to touch on the Kid Stop coordinator position, as long as we're in kind of the discussion phase?
Right. We're taking the Kid Stop coordinator position separately, and I did provide a very rough job description so that you understood the duties involved with that position. Position is year-round. It's 8 hours per day. It's a full-time position. It has really evolved into a leadership position where this individual has responsibility for budgeting, for setting up the schedules at each of the buildings where its kid staff is provided. The same with hiring staff for the summer school program, dealing with parent concerns as they arise, student behavior issues, those kinds of things. So it's very supervisory in nature. She's been with us for over 20 years. She's still classified as an educational assistant. Obviously, her level of responsibility extends way beyond that. So in this particular situation, we're recommending the salary increase along with 10 days of paid vacation. Right now, she receives no paid time off, and as I mentioned before, she is year-round.
Can you tell us the growth patterns? I didn't pose that question, but that might be hard to give tonight, but it has grown incredibly even in the last few
The
years.
program has grown, and Molly can probably attest to that, even in her building for the summer program.
It's a
has
crazy
grown.
place.
I know last summer, this summer, we've even grown in that short time period, but from when the program began to right now, we've added sites and we've certainly added responsibilities, as Dr. Ritzenthal mentioned. One other additional thing I'd like to be sure the board knows is that there's also a medical responsibility as far as understanding, those kids that have allergies or severe reactions to certain things. So that's another level of expertise that we ask this person to manage. But right now, I think we have about 220 kids registered for summer, and on any given day, we might have anywhere from 160, 170 to a full house of 220.
Wow.
We also managed to get those children up to the pool for swimming and other various activities during the summer, so she coordinates all of that, which is a feat in and of itself.
And I have been up there at that pool. It's an incredible place.
But this comes with the endorsement of Glenn Bilston, as you know, who has been with the Kid Stop program from its inception and has seen it evolve and still provides some administrative oversight, but has really turned a lot of the responsibility over to Pat Gavin, who is now in that position.
And the position reports to Mr. Goldston?
Yes.
Okay, any further questions on anything? Otherwise, we can start with number 1. And in effect, what you'll be voting on is for the 2012-2013 school year. The first one would be a 2% increase for the network technicians. I entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bedro, seconded by Riley. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the administrative assistant. That amounts to a 2% increase as well.
4%.
General ed assistant, I think you meant. Administrative assistant is Mary, that's further down, right?
I'm looking at how they're listed.
In the
Number 2.
agenda, is it?
Number 2 is administrative assistant on my agenda. Guess I have a wrong one.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
What is the administrative assistant?
I got that.
You're right.
It's up the street, so I'm not correct on percent. Get out of here.
It would be
2%.
2%. So that's the administrative assistant with a 2% increase. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bedro, seconded by Riley. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the regular educational assistants. That, again, is a 2% increase.
4%.
4.
It's a general education assistant. And then others.
Okay. Make sure I have it right.
That's one of the groups that we're trying to elevate. Which is
Okay, so number 3, which is the regular educational assistants, the increase would be 4%. Entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Bedro, seconded by Meering. Any discussion?
That was at 4%, correct?
That is 4%. Hearing no additional discussion, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion Motion carried. Brings us to the special education assistance. That is at 6%. Entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Who was the second? Mr. Mortimer. Motion by Vidro, seconded by Mortimer. Those in favor, any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Mary, I will be abstaining.
Note the abstention of Mr. Cummings. Brings us to the computer lab assistance. That is at 2%. Entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vidro, seconded by Mearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the food service staff.
Move to approve.
Second.
2% it was.
Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the library assistance, again at 2%.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Mortimer. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the lifeguards, which is 25 cents per hour.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Vidro. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Mary, I'll abstain. I won't oppose. So.
Note the abstention of Mr. Mearing. Brings us to the Kid Stop Coordinator, and that is at 4% with the explanation provided earlier.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Vidro. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. And Kid Stop staff, which is at 2%. Entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vidro, seconded by Mearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
I'd just like to add that with the board approval now, those salary indexes will become part of the employee handbook. So that'll readily be available to the board and the staff members within that group.
Thank you. Thank the administrators that were here for this portion of the meeting. Next, we have on our agenda for executive closed session. I just want to state, as school board members, we are elected officials. We don't have a job description, and our contract is with the voters. So that having been said, we would entertain a motion for executive closed session, noting the potential for conflict of interest with one or more board members.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vidro, seconded by Mearing. Roll.
Aye.
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 Aye. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Well, she's been a great advocate.
He didn't sign in yet either. I told you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to work with your sister, Jack. Well, I yeah, when I came here, she was like, I'm going to run over to Baraboo. And actually, it was
Yeah, I can start putting it in.
I love working with right on it. I know for a fact that that's awesome. Gavel.
Everybody take their seats.
The link on there, I would just cut out of the link and just go right on the web.
It's good, you know, to deal with all this. Exactly, it's just, it's a... Anything, everybody. Good new thing. Good at templates. Good new thing. Good new extension.
Stop it.
I'd like to call this 31st budget hearing for the School District of Baraboo for Monday, July the 23rd, 2012 to be ordered. Looking to my left, which would be to your right, I'd like to introduce those that are up here at the table. Board Member Gary Cummings, Board Member Sean McNevin, Board Member Doug Meering. Mr. Mortimer was here. He's not sitting at the table at the moment. I'm assuming he'll arrive shortly. Board Member Mo Riley, Board Member Peter Vidro, Board Member Kevin Bodak. This is our parliamentarian for tonight, Frank Sutherland, District Administrator Dr. Kritzel Ristenthaler, and our Director of Business Services, Martha Baldwin, and to her right is our Board Reporter, Mary Howard. So with the introductions having been done, I'd like to turn to our parliamentarian to kind of go through what the ground rules are for us tonight.
Yes, and I'll offer just a few comments on the budget hearing and then speak again when we come to the annual meeting portion so that anybody coming in for just the annual meeting can hear the instructions as well. As some of you may know, the budget hearing is designed to be an informational meeting for the citizens or electors within the district. And as reflected by the agenda tonight, there will be a presentation of the budget. There will be no action during the hearing itself, but we will later have an opportunity for the electors to authorize a levy. And sometimes it can be a bit confusing at annual meetings because you'll be looking at a budget that has line items, and that will be discussed in some detail. But the role of the electors is ultimately to authorize the board to make the levy. So there will be a specific time when questions can be asked after we've gone through the presentation. If you do have questions tonight, we would ask you to please raise your hand and then wait to be recognized by the chair, and then each person can have an opportunity to raise any questions and seek clarification on any of the different items within the budget. Ultimately, though, the electors then will have the opportunity to vote to authorize the levy as opposed to evaluating each line of the budget. And that's the way the Wisconsin legislators established this process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sutherland. At this point, I'd like to turn to Dr. Kritzel Ristenthaler for the district's address.
And I've been told I have to stand, but I don't think it will make any difference in how you hear me. But I'm going to attempt to cover some of the highlights of what our 2012-13 budget addresses, both with the strategic plan and with student achievement. The budget that is presented here tonight prioritizes our most critical educational needs while addressing areas that provide the highest return on our taxpayers' investments. Just over a year ago, the district's strategic plan was created by a broad representation of school district staff and community members. 3 critical issues are identified in the strategic plan. 1 is building a sense of community, trust, support, and pride to advance student learning. Secondly, to address 21st century teaching and learning. And finally, establishing measurable goals across the district which demonstrate both high expectations and accountability. So how does our school district budget support the strategic plan? The 2012-13 school district budget supports professional development as a priority. This upcoming school year, 1/3 of our teachers will be in their first 3 years of teaching. These teachers need specialized support and training to be successful in their roles to maximize student achievement. We have an exemplary mentoring program in place which partners veteran teachers with new teachers, and these veteran teachers are trained as mentors. We utilize an instructional coaching model, and that provides support for both teachers and principals. Each school this year is structuring time within the school day to provide additional support for students who are struggling academically. By being responsive to student needs in a timely, ongoing manner, students will become more successful in reaching their full potential. Students who are accelerating academically can benefit from enrichment opportunities. So the proposed budget here tonight supports gifted and talented program needs through professional development, instructional coaches, as well as appropriate curriculum materials and online learning options for some of our students. Professional development must also respond to the new national academic standards in reading, math, and science, as well as the literacy standards now for all content areas, most recently adopted by our state. Our teachers work very hard this year to ensure that all of these new standards are included in what they teach, and more importantly, to ensure that students attain those standards. It sounds simple enough, but it requires a great deal of collaboration. The school calendar will continue to provide a structure for this essential work and to ensure that students are being assessed in a way that really demonstrates their knowledge and skills. Why are 21st century skills a priority? The students who are graduating today from our schools enter a much more competitive workforce than most of us experienced. Most new jobs are centered around highly interactive work environments. Employees there need to collaborate, problem solve, be innovative and creative while analyzing things in a critical way. In addition, many of these new jobs involve interactions that take place on a global scale. So it also requires those individuals to have cross-cultural knowledge and skills. Perhaps most importantly, though, and you've heard me say this before, our graduates must be able to adapt as technology and job requirements change. Teachers will be working together with our community to define 21st century skills, to assess students' proficiency in those areas, and to integrate those skills into curriculum and instruction through technology. So this budget here tonight will support professional development and resources across the district in this area. During the annual review of the district strategic plan, which took place just a month ago, the concept of a business education partnership was introduced, and that will now be integrated into the district strategic plan. The purpose of this partnership is to encourage the business and educational communities to coordinate their existing resources and create additional opportunities to broaden the experiences of our students, better preparing them for the future and their careers in global citizenship. Literacy continues to be an emphasis in our schools. We know that students are much more likely to be successful in school and beyond if they have strong reading, writing, and communication skills. Book rooms and classroom libraries have been developed in schools to provide a variety of instructional resources at various reading levels in each of our schools. This year's budget continues to support that priority. Literacy coaches are teachers with additional training and certification in the area of reading, supervision, and assessments. Coaches in each school will continue to work with teachers to provide ongoing professional development through lesson demonstrations, co-teaching, observing, and providing feedback to teachers while assisting them with student assessments. Peer coaching is research-based and has been proven to be a very successful approach in improving both instruction and student achievement. A growing number of jobs require knowledge of science, technology, engineering, and math, sometimes referred to as STEM. We need to help all students become scientifically literate, as citizens are increasingly facing a changing landscape in these areas. The district budget will designate funding for science and technology to ensure that we have adequate resources to teach inquiry-based activities, to provide professional development for teachers to effectively integrate technology and science, and to develop assessments that measure student learning in this area. The math curriculum has been updated and expanded to include 21st century skills and to align with the new National Common Core standards. Professional development will ensure that all teachers understand how to use curriculum materials to differentiate and adjust instruction based on individual student needs, whether that means challenging high-performing students or targeting students who need additional support. We will utilize math coaches to work with their colleagues to increase student achievement in this area. School districts are also mandated to have a system of intervention and support in place for reading, math, and behavior to address individual student needs. So as we implement response to intervention, we recognize the need for a summer program for some of our students. This summer, we actually reinstated, after a 7-year hiatus, a K-12 academic summer program utilizing research-based practices that we know are proven to be successful. The summer school program targeted students who could benefit from additional time in reading and math, and also we offered credit recovery for high school students so they could be on time for graduation. The budget will continue to support summer school programming for students with expanded course offerings through this budget. Early intervention is the most effective approach in preparing our students for future success. Providing a high-quality experience for our 4-year-olds among our community site programs requires instructional materials that are research-based. The need to provide a safe learning environment for students remains a top priority. One way that we're working to ensure that this happens is through PBIS. It's an approach that promotes social skills for positive behavioral and academic outcomes for students. Again, we're utilizing staff trained as PBI coaches to help with the implementation of this program in our schools. Baraboo's current graduation requirement of 21 credits is the lowest in the Badger Conference and one of the lowest in the state. This places our students at a competitive disadvantage when compared to their peers from other parts of the state. To provide our students with a rich experience that will prepare them to be college and career ready, graduation requirements must be increased. The board recently approved increasing our requirements to 26 credits, beginning with the class of 2017. Consistent with the recently adopted district strategic plan, high school students will also be required to complete a service learning component, as well as participate in an online learning experience. We are committed to providing the best possible learning experiences for all students, and the proposed 2012-13 school budget ensures that our staff will have the resources to work together and make that happen. Let's continue to be advocates for our students and work together to raise our expectations about what students can accomplish while assisting them in their learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Risenhaller. And up next, we have the Chair of the Finance Committee, Mr. McNevin, for a presentation of the budget.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. I want to hit on the highlights of the budget. The key component for being here tonight is that budget book that you have in front of you. This represents the financial information for the district for this year. And this is what we'll be asking you to authorize tonight. So I'll go through some of the highlights of what we have coming up for the year. And feel free, we've got some time at the end to ask any questions. I always want to start off with the timing of the budget process, because being a typical accountant out in the real world, I run it either a calendar year or I run a fiscal year, and the school timing is very different than most budget activities. As you can see, the board votes for a budget back here in May and June as we work on the budget. We get our first estimate of aid from the state, which we have received, but it wasn't until after we had published some preliminary information and automatically the numbers start changing. We have an annual meeting in July, students start showing up in September, and we don't receive our first revenue from the state until December. So it goes to show you just how difficult it is to work through and muddle through the process. But after years of doing it, we're getting pretty good at it. What comes down to, for the public to know, is the mill rate calculation. Everybody wants to know, what's it going to do to my taxes? How does it affect my taxes? Well, the mill rate calculation is made up of different components. That third Friday pupil count. How many kids are sitting in their desks on the third Friday of the school year? Okay? That determines the population at all the local schools. We have certified equalized value throughout the state. What are the property values of the state? That determines our equalized aid, how much is coming back from the state, and that swings greatly. We had anticipated, and we're told to anticipate a 10% drop in equalized aid, and actually we saw a slight increase. We also have an allowable revenue calculation done by the state, and when all that is put into the grinder, the meat grinder, we come up with a certified levy come November 1st. We operate under governmental accounting, fund accounting. Not only do we keep the funds separate on ledger, but we also keep the funds separate at the bank. The government funds are your general and special education. That represents almost all of the budget. Trust funds are kept separate. Those are bequests or gifts to the district, as well as employee benefits. Those run through a separate fund. Debt service is always a differentiated fund, and then we have other funds for other activities such as food service, student funds, and community service groups. Revenue. The numbers are a little dark, but we have 56% of our revenue that comes from the state government here, 42% from local taxpayers, and 2% from feds and other districts. This 56% is where we're at currently with the state. Many folks remember the time that the state had always attempted to fund 2/3 of the school district, with the remaining 1/3 being funded locally. Clearly, we're falling short of that 2/3 goal. Expenditures, you can see that we are a human resource-based system. We have 80% of our expenditures are salary and benefits. That doesn't vary much from year to year. The other 13% of other services represents busing. And the rest is material, supplies, and equipment. Debt service, this is my favorite slide tonight. Without a doubt, this is my favorite slide because, as you can see, this year is our last debt payment. After our debt payment in April of $261,000, the Baraboo School District will be debt-free. Some notes about facility maintenance. People ask about that. We have a big campus. $2.7 million budget, but we have 102 acres of lawns, grounds, field, parking lots. We have 500,000 square feet of buildings. We have 10 acres of roofs. That's a lot of roofs to keep up on. And utility costs, although very favorable this winter, it can run up to almost $1 a square foot. What do we do with other maintenance projects? Well, most of you have read in the paper about our two big projects. One is the track between the high school and the middle school. It's approximately a $900,000 project. If you drive by tonight, you'll see that it is getting ready for paving, so we're pretty excited. We're going to be ready for football season. The Jack Young Middle School wall is my nemesis. I hate talking about this project, and it just won't go away. That was a combination of faulty design, faulty construction, faulty oversight. And so now 27 years later, we're paying for it. But as we go through the project, we're going to shore everything up, make sure everything's safe, and move on. We do have allocated every year about $250,000 of miscellaneous maintenance projects. You'll see the schools get spruced up, and some new picnic tables, sidewalks fixed, lockers cleaned, those kind of things. We also have undertaken a new current facility study. This is different than our capital needs plan. Our capital needs plan was done by MSA They went through every building, all the mechanicals, they went through the exterior, the interior, they prioritized the things that needed to be done for maintenance and for repairs and for capital improvements, okay? And that's kind of a 5-year plan. This facility study is because we're out of space. We're out of classroom space. And so we brought in some folks that are experts in school design and the way things are taught today. And what we want them to do is analyze our usage of our space and tell us, is there a better way we can be using our space? Okay? Because certainly there might be. What are the budget priorities? Crystal talked on most of these as I was going through, but I'll highlight some of the ones again. 4K common literacy and math instructional materials, in other words, 4K curriculum. We had a lot of positive feedbacks about our 4K program. What we wanted to make sure is we get the common result coming out of 4K. Okay, that way all the kids get the same instruction level, regardless of which community partner you're based in. You'll see the same level of achievement going into kindergarten. We continue to invest in our elementary curriculum. Just to kind of give you a visual of what that looks like, here's the old standard social studies textbooks that many of us kind of hauled around for years. A lot of the new curriculum is chapter-based books. Okay, they're designed with smaller, easier, more engaging text than just bright white pages with black lettering. Okay, they're also leveled so that you can engage students based on where they are at. Correct? All right. So that you can assess better how the students are grasping each subject as you go. We're also investing in high school English and gifted and talented services. Crystal brought this one up. What does that mean that we're investing in gifted and talented? Is it just lip service or what are we doing? Well, we're doing coaches at each of the buildings. We're doing the differential instruction material. In other words, we're changing the curriculum. We're giving these kids the opportunity to get deeper into the core areas, whatever that may be. Professional development with all of our teachers. Online options, enrichment opportunities, okay? We need to get the professional development as a key piece of this so that we can recognize and support those gifted and talented kids. Professional development for school improvement, this is what it's all about for us. This is investing in our educators. We have 21st century learning. We have grading and assessment. That is positive behavior. Crystal mentioned, PBIS is a program where if somebody doesn't understand math, we teach them. If somebody doesn't understand English, we teach them. If somebody doesn't understand behavior, we punish them? No, we teach them. And so that's what PBIS in a nutshell is all about for a non-educator, I guess, to explain it. We continue to invest in literacy and math, as well as assessment literacy and data-driven decision-making. Now, if you're a non-educator and you go, what is that? Because that's exactly what I said. What is that? Assessment literacy and data-driven decision. We have so much data coming our way. We have our WKCE testing, which is outdated. We have all of our MAT testing. What's the other one? EPAS. So we test and test and test, and we measure that data. Now what we need to do is teach people to read that data, assess it, understand it, and what does that mean to us, okay? Because you have to look not only at the data, but you got to look through the data, and that's what this training is all about. We had I digress, but we had a kindergarten teacher in here, and she was showing the data on the growth of her kindergarten class and how much they had achieved over 1 year. And there was still one student that was below the line. And somebody else, what about the student that didn't make grade? And she said, my gosh, that is the student I'm the most proud of, okay? Because she tried the hardest, she gained the most, she didn't make it to that line, but that's the one I'm most proud of. So all the data in the world is great, but you have to be able to look through it. And so that's what some of this professional development is about too. Differentiation and inclusion practices, well, differentiation, of course, is about individualizing instruction for our students, okay, to push them along their path. And inclusion, of course, is about the least restrictive environment. That's making sure that our special ed kids are included in everyday activities and in that classroom. Summer school, and all the kids cheered, yay! We did start summer school out. It's on a smaller scale. It's not the full-blown scale. The opportunity is there, especially for credit recovery that's critical as we move forward with higher graduation standards. My daughter's the class of 2017, did not talk to me for a week, but she'll get through it and hopefully she'll graduate. Summer school also allowed us to tie in our federal food program that has received from press, free meals for all of the kids in the community, and our physical skills. Erin does a nice job of coordinating that activity, getting kids in the summer school programs, the open gyms. And when you have a coordinated summer school academic program, they count toward head count, so that's a plus for us. Technology, I'm a big push for technology. I love to talk about it, but I don't do it any justice. So I had them give us a quick little clip. Our tech ed department put this together for us. It's just
Technology tools and resources are changing the landscape in the Baraboo School District. These resources are impacting the way we communicate, collaborate, and how we teach and learn. Within this short video, I will demonstrate the different components, concepts, and other resources used to create our 21st century schools. Wireless access is a key component to transparent use of technology resources in our learning spaces. We started building this mobile capacity in 2007 when we added 90 access points to our school buildings. Since we added this wireless technology, we have seen the use of mobile devices in our schools grow. Since its inception in 2007, we have added 680 mobile type devices to our network. We are anticipating even more growth in the use of mobile devices in the future, so we are expanding to provide a more robust wireless infrastructure. We put an extensive amount of effort into creating these 21st century learning spaces. The technology in these areas simply need to work. The resources need to be transparent, easy to use, have adequate audio and video, be affordable and supportable. We have completely transformed 142 classrooms and other learning spaces in the past 4 years. Effective communication and collaboration is a key component to seamless use of technology in our schools. We recently launched Google Apps for Education to 450 staff and 2,500 students. This system allows our staff to easily communicate and collaborate with their colleagues and students in a rich, internet-based environment. Another key component to successful use of technology in schools is providing ongoing professional development opportunities for school staff. We need to continually expose our staff to the technology resources available and provide training for them on effective instructional technology strategies. We are working diligently to provide parents and other community access to school and district level news and information. We have used our website, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube accounts to upload current news, events, and other important information. Over 190 news articles have been posted to our website in the last 3 years. Our elementary schools have had multiple tech nights to showcase how technology is being used in our schools. A solid infrastructure is crucial to the success of an excellent technology program. We have many technology resources relying on this network. It is imperative to have a core network that is secure, solid, and reliable. A goal of our department is 100% uptime. We have recently completed some major upgrades and are now seeing the fruits of this investment. Having a solid support team is a cornerstone piece in the success of technology in the Baraboo schools. We have added many resources such as phone, email, and chat support to meet the ever-increasing support needs of staff, students, and community. If our users can get timely support to their technology needs, we have better success using the tools and resources in our district. Our team supports more than 4,500 tickets annually. Mobility. 21st century classrooms. Collaboration. Communication. Professional development. Community involvement. Support and infrastructure are the pieces that all fit together to weave this rich, complex, engaging 21st century learning environment. As we continue to move forward, we need to keep our focus on maintaining this environment to support the ever-increasing needs of our students and staff.
It's always good to end with a photo with a kid missing his tooth. Let's talk dollars and cents, okay? Your total school levy last year was $13,161,000. The total school levy asked for tonight is $13,080,000, a slight decrease, but it's still a decrease. That's 2 years in a row that we've had a decrease in the levy dollars. Everybody wants to know, how do we stack up against our neighbors and the mill rate? Well, here is a 10-year look at our mill rate. It's been fairly consistent. And how do we look against our neighbors? This is just Baraboo, Reedsburg, Sauk, and Portage. As you can see, we are significantly below our neighbors when it comes to the cost of education in the community. Thank you for coming tonight. I will open it up to any and all questions. Yeah.
I have a question. 2 weeks ago in the paper, they were saying that there was like some windfall from the state, like that we were going to get a whole bunch more. Is that implemented in this budget, or how does that play into this whole thing?
Well, the second shoe to drop was that we had budgeted a 10% decrease in state funding. And with a 10% decrease in state funding, we were looking at about $1 million, just over $1 million, $1.25 million being added to the tax roll. So instead of being here tonight saying we're going down a slight amount, I would have been saying, hey, look, the state took $1.5 million away from us. We've got to come to you and ask for the $1.5 million. But when the state aid was calculated, instead of being a 10% decrease, we saw a slight increase. So our budget numbers were all changed to reflect now that the tax levy will actually go down. So it's a direct correlation between the state and local support. If the state drops theirs, the local goes up. If the state increases us, it gets offset. Because of the cap calculation, if the state gives us more support, then the local goes down. Folks?
At what grade level are the keyboarding skills first taught? The reason I ask that is because you see these youngsters on the computers, if they're not being taught keyboarding skills ahead of time, they're doing this and then they have to relearn.
We formally teach keyboarding skills in 3rd grade, but we do have some minimal instruction with the very beginning, with the kindergartners, 1st graders as they get going. The keys are color-coded and the fingers then are color-coded to match the keys.
I would also add to that new technology makes keyboard learning almost unnecessary. When you watch a kindergartner manage the high-class technology by pull down and touch menus to accomplish vastly more than the old styles that we were taught. So it's a different perspective on arriving at the goal that we all are looking for, which is how do we provide our young people access to knowledge information, and discernment.
Sean, I've got a question about all the use of technology. And if you look at the brain, it's like a muscle. And if you don't use it, it doesn't get strong. And I guess if I had my brothers, I would see less technology and more of just the old-fashioned learning where kids learn to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and read before they get into technology.
Yeah, technology is not the end-all. It's an engaging portion of our curriculum. And if you talk to our tech department, they'll say exactly that. How does our technology tie in with the curriculum? How does it support that instructional leader in that classroom? You know, there's certainly plenty. It isn't iPads and iPods all day. It's just an engaging opportunity for the kids to get involved in a certain area. Any other questions?
So I actually have a couple of specific questions. Do you have a budget to move to?
Okay, I do. I'll do my best.
All right. There's a couple of specific lines that I just want you to clarify a little bit. So on page 9, I know that we also have a challenge about open enrollment. So I noticed that you don't have anything budgeted like on line 345. You don't have anything budgeted for coming in for open enrollment, and then but you do have budgeted like $700,000 out for outgoing regular education open enrollment. Is there a reason why open enrollment wasn't included in part of the revenues? Do we anticipate not having any kids open enrolled in our school? So line 345 on page 9. Why is it 0? Because I know we always kind of throw in a number there, anticipating that it's going to be the open enrollment in is going to kind of offset the open enrollment out.
Right.
Do we anticipate something different this year?
No, there hasn't been a change in the dynamics of open enrollment in or out. I'll have to find out the answer to that. It could be a misclassification, but you know, Scott, trends are traditionally. What was it this year, Danny? We were for open enrollment in and out. Differentiation was. So that ratio still stays about the same.
All right, and on our same page, equalization aid under 621, we've got about like $1.3 million more in equalization aid. Can you summarize a couple of the things that, was it revenue calculationary adjustments? Was it aid goes to the districts? Can you summarize a couple of the main components of what caused the increase in the aid from the state?
There was a one-time low spending district aid to the tune of, I don't want to shout out a dollar amount because I don't know what else.
Shout out a dollar amount?
No, we don't have a dollar amount. But there was a one-time spending aid, but it doesn't make up that full increase by far. It was just how the revenue calculation came out from the state that gave us that opportunity. We looked at it. We looked at a 10% decrease. Well, clearly that didn't.
It never happened. It was never going to happen.
Well,
no.
That was just the advice we were given to take, and that was probably
DPI.
DPI comes across and says, "Here, take a look at this. Make sure you do that." And so that is what we did.
That just scared people. Anyway, so can you specify at all like how much was because of the revenue calculationary adjustments, or what were the components of that?
Well, one thing that I would like to interject on that is and certainly we're fortunate that when the revenue came through the DPI, that we were on the plus end. I think roughly 20% of the school districts were on the plus end. Baraboo was one of those school districts. 80% of them were on the negative end. So when they made the original projection, they were basing it upon what they thought was going to happen. But when it came through, obviously, we were on the plus end, Madison was on the plus end, and roughly...
well, we're concerned about Baraboo.
Yeah.
Baraboo, yes, but that's what I'm saying.
I'll get that breakdown for you.
All right.
I'll get that to you and email it over to you.
All right, and then the fund balance. Can you tell me which line here? Is it like what the fund balance amount is or the percentage?
We were just at our regular board meeting tonight. We were looking at, based on unaudited figures at the end of this year, we're looking at just under an 18% fund balance level.
Yeah, Scott, it's on page 8.
Right, on the bottom here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that represents about 18%. Now, we have a couple of projects that we talked about in the regular board meeting earlier that have to be partially funded out of that. The track and the middle school wall. So that is still going to leave us a fund balance greater than 15%.
Okay. And then can someone comment perhaps on the impact of the summer school program, whether that creates a challenge, whether that creates, I know we get some aid because of that. Would that be a component of why the aid increased? Or can someone comment kind of on the...
It's too early for summer school to impact those numbers because those numbers lag behind.
It's a 3-year rolling average, and it's only a partial reimbursement, so it's 40% of what we normally would receive for aid. But it takes 3 full years of counting those students to have it rolled in 100%.
So there's not really any reflection of summer school in this budget, is that correct?
Just the expenditures.
Just the expenditures, okay.
Scott, remember you were on there as long as I've been on, you've always used DPI estimate. It's been very, very close. This is the first time it's been right out of whack. But every time we ask anybody to explain the state formula, it's...
Well, I think there's ways to make that simpler.
Yeah. But anyway, the DPI, this they do that for all districts, and generally the right arc and stuff.
Some other questions?
No, I think that was okay.
And I'll get back to you on that, on the key differential in the state aid.
Yes, I want to address line 1XX and 2XX on expenditures. Page 11. We talked about professional development. Is that what you mean by we want to become better at educating our children? We want to have people that have experience. We want to have people here that have knowledge that have been around for a while. We don't want to lose them to the high-cost districts that are paying more. And I see a steady trend of a downward expenditure of salaries and benefits. And everybody's concerned about that. But are we losing people? Are we... You mentioned the fact that there are quite a number of people educators that are in the 3-year and under range. What's happening that cost is going down? Because every other budget you look at, the human resource side seems to always be increasing. So either you guys are doing a very good job of managing that, or we get less people, or less salaries, or can you expound upon that at all, Dr. Rex-Smaller, or whatever is in...
Sure. Our demographics here with our teaching population mirrors the demographics across the state and nation where we have an aging teaching population. So we've seen over the course of the last few years an increase in teachers who are eligible for early retirement. And so that's partially, and then also due to the uncertainty of post-retirement benefits, some people have opted to retire early. So what you see in Baraboo is much the same as what you see in other districts across the state.
I don't know about other districts across the state. I look at the 822 up there, and it looks to me as though we are low-cost school district.
It reflects teachers who are leaving the Baraboo School District at the higher end of the salary schedule based on their credits, their education, and their years of service. That's been negotiated over the years. And hiring new teachers who are at the very beginning of the salary schedule. So that difference, when you multiply that times 20 positions in a year, that's where you see some of that difference.
And are the actual numbers of educators decreasing?
No, we have not cut positions here in the school district. We've reallocated a few, but...
Okay. And these numbers, does this include administrative salaries and benefits also?
Yes.
Okay. well, obviously is a good thing, but, you know, it's always a concern about the brain drain of, you know, we lose college students to other states that are paying more in salaries and stuff. I just want to make that a point that I hope the board understands. We can't let the high-level achievers of professional teachers here leave because we're a low-cost district.
And I think that's...
I don't want to pay more taxes than anybody else.
I think that's something that the board is very aware of, and we're looking more and more at comparables, what people pay in surrounding districts, because we do want to remain competitive, and we do want to attract and retain the most high-quality educators that we can here in Baraboo.
And I'm sorry, but is there something in place now that we are testing or figuring out who is really achieving at that professional development level? I mean, the old teachers that have a lot of experience, the young teachers coming in. I mean, is there some kind of a testing phase that we say you're doing very good?
Well, I think the data, the outcomes, the student outcomes, you know, demonstrates the growth that students are making. And so just as the state is moving toward educator effectiveness and looking at a model of evaluation that's tied to student achievement, you know, we've kind of already headed down that track here in Baraboo, where our evaluation tool and process does reflect those domains and instructional areas that we expect teachers to be performing at high levels. So, you know, we're at a little bit of an advantage in Baraboo that the model that the state is going to be rolling out is something that we've already had partially in place here.
I agree with you. Our greatest concern is to ensure the fact that we are able to retain and hire the best and the brightest. And the capitalist system of free market makes it a challenge for small districts to compete with larger districts that are offering higher salaries, higher benefits. So we have great challenges. We have Devil's Lake, we have geography, we have other things that we can offer families to move to Baraboo. But to move to Baraboo to establish careers in education, not as a stepping stone to go to some other district that is paying them higher. And part of that is the investment that we're making in the early stages of our young teachers, in professional development, in mentoring. And these are being mentored by our older, more experienced teachers who are sharing institutional knowledge and moving us forward. And that is represented, as Dr. Ritzenthaler has indicated, and Ms. Mueller will document, in the achievements in the last year, both internally with our own testing, as well as in statewide DPI testing, of the closing of gaps and the excelling of progress for our students. And that comes directly from the classroom teacher.
I want to note that it's a few minutes after 8 and we had an 8 o'clock meeting for the annual meeting. I would like to allow for one more question if we could. And I'm going to turn to Mr. McNevin. You can pick who's coming forth with the question.
And back.
Yes, it's not a question, but it seems to be an issue here being raised about higher wages means better people or better teachers or better administrators. And it isn't based, I don't feel, it's based on money. It's based on professionalism. It's based on desire to want to serve children. It's based on a love for this area. If money is your mindset, then go to Wanakee or to wherever they're paying the best wages and be happy there. But this area does not have that mean income per person to support whatever Mr. Vidro feels is the biggest and the brightest and the best. I know he comes from Illinois, and I know they're big spenders, but it doesn't work that way here. We're different. We have a different mindset on what is a professional teacher and what do they want to give the children, and what is their service to the community. And if you want all those, the best of the arts and the best of those other things, then go to Wanakee or go wherever they're offering you that high wage. But here it's different.
They are. I would only say.
And that's good.
They are.
And that's good, Pete. You too. You're from
They are.
Illinois and you know all about that big money. That's good.
Wait,
Go.
point of order.
Okay, we need a point of order. It's 5 minutes after 8, and entertain a motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Now I'd like to open the annual meeting, which was scheduled for 8, so we're just a few minutes behind. First order of business for the annual meeting is the election of a temporary chairperson.
I would like to nominate Kevin Bodett.
I will second that nomination as a temporary chairperson.
Any discussion? Those in favor of that nomination signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Notice in the packet, and because everybody that's here signed in, some people came a little bit late, I just want to make sure that everybody signed in and everybody has this packet. There's a slip of paper, which I see some of you have, make sure that you have that if we need that for the resolution. In the packet was the minutes of the last meeting, which would have been the meeting of last summer. That is for reference only, we don't need to address it. We had some folks that weren't here for the opening portion of the budget hearing, so I would like to turn to our parliamentarian to kind of review the ground rules for the annual meeting as well.
I'm Frank Sutherland from Boardman & Clark, one of the attorneys that serves the district. As you look at your agendas tonight, you'll see that in this portion of the meeting, the annual school meeting, proceeds a little differently than the budget hearing in that we don't have an open discussion time, but rather have a series of resolutions that will be considered, and then E is business from the floor, and other motions can be made at that time. Please bear in mind that the way that Wisconsin law is set up is that electors or citizens at an annual meeting have certain powers that the school board does not have. And we come annually to the annual meeting to have the electors exercise those powers. All 4 of the resolutions that have been prepared before the meeting tonight reflect powers of the annual meeting, things the board cannot do. If there are other motions from the floor under E, one of the things we'll do after a motion is made and seconded is that the chair and I will take a moment to consider whether the motion is germane, that is to say, whether the motion pertains to one of the powers that citizens possess at an annual meeting, and if it does, we'll proceed with discussion. In each case, we'll ask that a motion be made, seconded, and you'll see at page 4 some of the ground rules for the meeting tonight at the very bottom of the page. We will ask people to submit their name in writing. The primary purpose for that is so that we can have accurate minutes and identify accurately who has made the motion and who has seconded the motion. After that has occurred, we will then go into discussion, again focused on the subject of that particular motion. We will be operating under Robert's Rules of Order tonight, and that does provide the chairman with some discretion, whether we will do voice votes or hand votes, what have you. We'll start, in most cases, chairman with a voice vote. If there's a question as to whether we have a majority, then we'll consider other options. Those are the basic ground rules, and if there are any questions as we go along, I will confer with the chairman as parliamentarian.
Thank you. First up under new business is Resolution A-2012, and if you've been at previous annual meetings, we have a fairly short list of resolutions because we usually were into double digits. The first is Resolution A-2012, salaries of school board members. Be it resolved by the electors of the school district of Baraboo that school board members will be compensated at the rate of $50 for each school board meeting the member actually attends. The current compensation is $50 per meeting, and that's per Board Policy 164. I would entertain a motion in support of that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Do we need written names, or do we have accurate spellings for the names of those who made motions?
We do so far.
Okay. We do so far. Right.
Okay, discussion of the Resolution A-2012. Hearing none, those in favor? I'm sorry.
Mr. President, I move to amend the resolution to strike out all of the words following at the rate of.
Okay, could we please, I think we heard a second, if we could get names on both this is a motion to amend with a second. And after we record the names, we'll entertain discussion on the amendment itself.
Yeah, I seconded it. My name is James Lombard.
All right, to be clear, as parliamentarian, I'd just like to understand that if we were to take a pen and strike out from at the rate of, which is currently in the third line of the motion, and strike out the remainder of that line, the next line and the small portion that references a policy number on the following line, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
So it's at the rate of $50 period, or it's at the rate of period? No dollar
At the rate
amount.
of
I can
stop. And I would like to request this be a secret ballot. And if it passes, I will have another motion to complete the resolution.
I'm going to call as out of, you can certainly make a request for a secret ballot. There's no obligation for a secret ballot under Robert's rules.
We can go by show of hands this time.
Could we read the resolution as it's been amended? It's just,
Maybe part of the discussion could be what you actually mean, because I'm not.
Well, according to Robert's rules, if we're going to modify a resolution, we first have to remove part of it, and then a second motion would be to add or insert. So this is the first step, to remove.
What would the second motion then be? I mean, if you're asking me if I want to vote to strike it, I guess I'd like some inkling of what the potential to replace it with is.
Well, we'll find out after this motion, after this vote. Because it's a two-step process according to Robert's rules.
So, should the motion pass to delete the verbiage and the resolution ends with at the rate of, and the second motion fails, you have a resolution that stops with the word of.
Someone else can make a motion.
Sure. Could do that all night till something passes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I would entertain, is there any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain a vote.
Kevin, this is on the amendment to the motion?
Yeah, it's just a
Correct. Any further discussion?
No, you're allowed.
Okay, so those that are in favor of the motion, I want to make sure I'm stating it correctly. We'll start with a voice vote. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, now we're going to do by a show of hands. Those in favor of the motion by a show of hands.
As I come by, once I point to you, if you'd please put your hand down.
Okay, those opposed, show of hands. By a vote of 23 to 21, the amendment passed. So now we bring back the main motion. Yeah.
I move to amend the main motion. Excuse me, the resolution to add the words, to add after the words, at the rate of. $1 annually.
Okay. So the motion is to add after the words the rate of the sentence one, or to add $1 annually, at the rate of $1 annually, just to clarify it.
We will open debate on that. We have a first, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, can you please identify yourself?
James Lombard.
We got spellings as we need them. Okay. We're going to take a moment before we open discussion on the second amendment to review the statutes to be sure that the action that is proposed is within the scope of the statutory power of the electors.
120.10, parent 3.
Thank you. You got it right here.
Discussion? Sure.
I need to go to the microphone? Or,
I can hear you just fine.
well, I'll go to the microphone in case the recorder can't. The Baraboo School Board and Administration have strived for and developed a reputation throughout Wisconsin. The reputation is not a result of exceptional student academic outcomes. Your reputation is not a result of distinguished public service in the area of transparency. Your reputation is not a result of tolerance, fairness, or being reasonable toward different points of view. Your reputation is not a result of hiring the best and brightest, especially when a friend or relative applies for a job.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, is this just grandstanding, or is this just, is there anything germane to this motion?
Is not, this is discussion. It was asked.
Well, but truly, it's not germane to the resolution. This is just a...
Please make it germane to the motion.
It is germane to the resolution.
It is.
Of course it is.
Well,
Explain why
you know, a 14 point whereas,
the annual meeting,
I want to rub your nose in something, doesn't strike to me as a...
Excuse me.
No,
the annual meeting is when the public has a say on the actions, behavior.
Okay, I'll allow you to continue, but no one, I don't want any insulting from either side. Just continue your discussion or interruptions.
The annual meeting is when the public has a say on the actions, behavior, and performance of the board taken as a whole. This elector has no confidence in this board. None. My motion is a statement of no confidence to you. As such, the compensation in this motion is appropriate. I'll be voting no on the next agenda item to reimburse board members, and I'll be voting no on the budget because I have no confidence in anything this board says or does. My fellow electors vote yes on this motion to amend, so the district has the money to pay for the board's spiteful witch hunt of a fellow board member.
Okay, who's done? You're done.
I would like to make a comment. Am I allowed to make a comment?
I would prefer discussion, as long as it's germane.
Germane to the discussion. Mr. Megan ran for a position on this board, and he was defeated soundly by the community.
That's not germane.
Mr. Megan's
That's not
point.
germane. That's not germane.
Hold on, we're gonna have one at a time, and if I have to stand in the middle, we'll have one at a time, but we're gonna have one person speaking at a time, and we're gonna ask people to keep their voices down as we speak, and the comments are going to be germane to the motion, or you will not be allowed to speak. That goes for everyone in this room.
Define it.
I will define it as we go.
Define germane.
I will define it based on the comments that are made. It has to be relevant to the motion. For example, to say why you would calculate compensation in a certain way, and we are not going to allow for epithets or personal insults as a part of this annual meeting. That is within the purview of the chairman to stop. So make your comments substantive and professional and relevant. Go ahead.
My understanding of this amendment, as presented by Mr. Megan, in his own words, is a no confidence vote in this board with him as an elector. I am framing that no confidence around a published and public vote of this community that defeated Mr. Megan and his no confidence vote, which then would make this amendment untenable in the larger community. That's all I have to say.
Yes.
I just have a question. I'm new to these meetings. What are most school boards paid, and what are the hours that you put into it? You know, I mean, I think, like, how is the number brought about? I mean, I know it's been done for a number of years at $50 for each meeting. my understanding, there are like 2 hours every other week that you come, and then there's committee meetings and other work, like meetings with the public.
Well,
and then where did they get their $50 and how does it compare?
It was, this board, when I first came on, I believe was $45, so it's gone up $5 in 11 years. School districts compensate their board members in different ways. We receive once a year a book that shows how districts compensate. $50 per meeting is certainly on the low end, not the high end. There are districts that compensate their board members per year. It might be $3,000 a year. Typically, the officers of those types of districts are paid more. Nobody on this board is paid more than any other board member. Everybody's paid equally $50, whether you're a standard board member or have any other duties. I can't specifically say what other districts are, but I can guarantee you that $50 is on the low end, but it is not. There's other districts that may pay less. I can't say. I don't know. Yes.
I know that there's a lot of people who serve on civic duties throughout the community that get paid absolutely nothing. And I think the school board, in my opinion, should be equal. I don't know why you get paid at all. To me, it should be a voluntary. You run for the office. And I really think that being paid, I'm sure $50 doesn't make or break any. If it does, I probably should be donated to you anyhow. But I really think that it should be just more of a community service. I like that idea, not having to be paid, but I think that's a good idea.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to point out that it is an elected position, and other elected positions such as to our city council or to the county board are equally compensated, roughly the same. It's pretty standard to be compensated when you're on an elected board as opposed to volunteering for a committee in the community. And I certainly value the reputation of the Baraboo School District. And I would certainly not support paying our board members $1 a year and making our school district the laughing stock of the state, based on maybe what seems to me as a personal bias, if you will.
Yes.
I don't see that as a laughing stock of the state. I see it as something admirable because I hear continuously in newspaper articles and comments made that it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids. So if it's so much about the kids, then why do we have so much about everyone? That's all I can say.
Yes, Rose.
Kevin, can you clarify when it says each school board meeting? Does that mean every committee meeting?
If it's an agendized meeting, if there's a posted agenda where there's a committee meeting or a regular board meeting, yes.
Okay, like the finance committee, the grounds and maintenance committee?
Yes.
Okay, those are all, okay, thank you.
We'll take a moment that we've had a issue brought to the attention of the parliamentarian that I'd like to discuss with the chairman for a moment. We're just going to suspend discussion for a moment. We have, at the present time, and we may have had people come in who have not, were not here earlier to sign in, but we have a total of 45 people signed in. We had a total of 44 votes, and we have 3 people who have registered as non-residents, which brings into question whether we may have had a non-resident or more vote. So I'd like to ask Danny Scott, are you here? Danny, did you vote as a part of this? You did not? Melissa Hanson? Melissa, did you vote in the earlier count? And William Loss, did you vote in the roll call? All right, thank you very much, and we can continue discussion. If anyone has arrived who is an elector, who is attending this meeting to vote, or who has already voted, I'd ask that you come over and sign in now. Is there anybody that falls in that category?
They just signed this.
They just signed in, okay. And did any of you vote? All right, thank you. Okay, we can resume discussion. Further discussion? Yes.
We've been hearing for quite a long time about a problem that the board has with Ed Mortimer.
Sir, I'm going to stop you right there to say this is not germane to the amendment that is currently before the board. If you wish to address this topic, it will have to be in another forum. Further comments? Yes.
Yes, the question the gentleman just brought up does play into the no confidence vote for the board.
Right now,
and therefore, the reimbursement should be decreased because I have no confidence in this board and the way they treat an elected official.
Any other comments?
I call the question. Can the person who wants to motion?
Okay, so the first would be in favor of the motion. And again, the motion is to have the complete resolution read, be it resolved by the electors of the school district of Baraboo that the school board members will be compensated at the rate of $1 annually. And we'll do that by a voice vote. Those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed to the resolution?
Nay.
Okay, now let's do a hand vote. The first will be for those who were in support of the resolution by a show of hands. Okay, now those opposed to the resolution by a show of hands.
Someone want to challenge an elector's status? Specific procedure for doing so, so if you wish so, you need to state that for the record with your name.
My name is John Regan. I question the eligibility of this elector.
Can you stand up? You didn't realize you were getting into this, did you? You said you're 18 years of age?
Yeah.
And you lived in the district for 28 days or longer?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other basis you have for challenging the qualifications of this elector?
No, sir.
Thank you. The vote will be counted.
Okay, so that motion failed, 22 for, 24 against. So now we are back to the original.
I'll make a motion that we add the language, $50 for each school board meeting the member actually attends. It's essentially restating the language.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on.
Can I have a clarification on that? Would that include committee meetings or just school board meetings?
Honestly, I don't know what the practice is, so I'll ask.
Okay, are you asking to reinstate all of the language as printed in the booklet that was received when we walked in here? Or are you?
Yes.
Okay.
To make it simple.
Okay, do we have both the motion and the second recorded?
You need it in writing.
As we've been taking the names, so long as we have accurate names, do we have the spellings of these names correctly? That's what we've been doing from the crowd as well. Now we're open for discussion.
Do you need it in writing, or can the original resolution in writing stand?
It's fine how it is. There's no written, other than having people identify their names in there.
Discussion? Yes.
Mr. Parliamentarian, point of order. The original resolution was successfully modified to remove all of that additional language. It is against Robert's rules to add it all, have another vote, and add it all back in.
I will review Robert's rules. I will tell you right now, though, that it can be added back in a slightly different way if that will satisfy you. I know there are...
It's not about satisfying me, sir. It's about
let me
satisfying
finish
Robert's rules.
Let me finish my statement. There are rules regarding both rescission and reconsideration. You're correct, and we'll go into the details of those rules if we need to. If that is your request, we will. But I am telling you that it may be a waste of everyone's time because you simply need to alter the wording a little bit and achieve a very similar result under Robert's rules. So if you want us to go through that exercise, we can, and I'll review the rule right now.
Please do.
I will do that.
Sean,
Well,
would you amend your motion?
yeah,
to
can I just
simply
amend my
state-
motion and save your effort?
Yes, and state a new motion.
But before you do, let me just refresh myself on the
That's
rule. I'm
fine.
familiar with the rule. And I want to be sure, given the tenor tonight, that we do things how we're supposed to do it for everyone's benefit.
That's good.
Okay. So we will go ahead and call that motion out of order. At this time, just to clarify, we have the original motion on the table, now amended to read, be it resolved by the electors of the school district of Baraboo that school board members will be compensated at the rate of, and it says nothing more than that, at this time in the proceedings.
Okay. Evan.
I will entertain a motion to add the words $50 for each school board meeting the member actually attends, period.
Second.
Discussion. Do we have both the primary motion and second recorded accurately for the minutes? Okay.
You heard the young lady in the back for today.
Who were the names who introduced that? Could I get the names who introduced and seconded it?
Sean McNevin.
Peter Vedro.
Yes.
When I ran for school board, I had no idea that there was any compensation. I assumed that there was not, but I felt that I wanted to have my voice heard, and I wanted to be a part of this group and the effort that the school district is putting forward. I was pleasantly surprised to be paid for my time, although it is a lot more time than I ever expected, and it certainly doesn't approach the salary that I make in my day job. On the other hand, I serve on many, many boards in the Baraboo area, none of which I am paid for, and all of which take a fair amount of my time. There are positions in the that are for committees in town that are paid, that are not elected and that are paid. I happen to know that, I'm not a member, but I happen to know that the members of the Baraboo Economic Development Committee or Commission, that those people are paid for their commitment and their involvement in that committee. What I want to say that is germane to this discussion is I don't think any of us here are here for the money. If in fact you don't want us serving these particular individuals, you do not have confidence in these particular individuals, then you know what? Don't vote for them. Don't vote for me next time. That's in fact how in the government, in an election, that's how people are booted out. That's how you make your voice heard. To reduce the compensation to $1 or to whatever is going to happen here tonight is really not going to change our efforts for the rest of our term. It's not going to change our votes. It's not going to change what we're trying to do here, which is to improve the lives of all of our children and the efforts that our teachers are making to support those efforts to have a great school district in Baraboo, to have great outcomes for as reasonable a price as we possibly can have. That's my goal. I think that's pretty much everybody's goal at this table.
Would you like to call a question on the motion?
Okay. Clarify. The motion that is now on the table, the resolution, is to be as follows. Be it resolved by the electors of the school district of Baraboo that the school board members will be compensated at the rate of $50 for each school board meeting the member actually attends. That is what we will vote for first by voice vote. Those in favor of the motion signify by...
Just to be clear,
Yes.
we're voting on the amendment. So So we're first going to vote on the amendment to add this language, and then we will vote on the entire language, okay?
Excuse me, don't you have to vote to close discussion?
He just called the question, which he may do. And so we'll be voting on the amendment first. Once we vote on the amendment, we will return to a vote on the full body of the motion, even though it will be redundant in this case. This is on the amendment.
So I will first call for a show of those in favor of the amendment by a voice vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Now we will go through with a hand vote. First again, those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
You all signed in? Okay, now by a show of hands, those opposed to the motion.
I'll work for it now.
Thank you, Mr. Mortimer.
The amendment passed 26 to 22. So now let's go back to discussion on the main motion. Or someone call the question.
Call a question.
Clarification, we're now voting on the main motion. We've worked our way through all proposed amendments, and we are voting on the main motion as amended by the last amendment.
Could you read it, please?
I can certainly read it. In its entirety, it would now be it resolved by the electors of the School District of Baraboo that school board members will be compensated at the rate of $50 for each school board meeting the member actually attends. So those who are in favor of that resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Now let's look at hands. Again, originally, This will be for those in support of the resolution by a show of hands. Okay, now those that are opposed, by a show of hands.
Those opposed, hands up, please. One. You got your ballot.
Motion passed 27 to 20. Brings us to Resolution B, 2012, reimbursement of school board members. Be it resolved by the electors of the school district of Baraboo that school board members will be compensated for actual and necessary expenses when traveling in the performance of their duties. I would entertain a motion for that resolution.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. McNevin, seconded by Mr. Bedro. Discussion?
I'll just make one point of discussion, and I will certainly state that I am a board member who probably utilizes this as much as any board member, though I know other board members do too. Most of this expense will be related to professional development of the school board. That will include Wisconsin Association of School Board meetings, where they'll have seminars. So when we go to these seminars, they will instruct us on what currently is happening in the state. So we do learn about the things that are happening in our legislature. It will include things that will help our decision-making process so that we do ask the right questions and help to make our administration and teachers and the whole process accountable. So that's where I'd say almost all that expense goes towards that. So that's my clarification on what this expense and resolution.
Yes.
I'd like to know who puts on these meetings. I guess what I said, I don't want to sound negative here, but it's coming about that way. Let's say the unions put on those meetings, school board, the teachers' unions. Would that affect how you make your decisions?
There's nothing put on by the teachers' union.
That's what I'm trying to find out. Who puts these on?
So a lot of these things are for the Wisconsin Association of School Boards.
So
a lot of
association?
A lot of them are lawyers and stuff that train us to what we can do and what we cannot do, what is against the law and what we can do. That's a lot. Then also, it's on financing, school funding, state funding, grants and everything. This is what you do to train yourself. I've been on here now since 7 years. I've been on 9 different boards in 35 years. You know some of the boards I've been on. I've had training on them things. We have training every time we go to one on a board. It's pretty important when you're handling $40 million. When you run a $40 million business, you better know what the hell you're doing.
I attended a new school board members meeting put on by WASB. And and that was my expense.
That doesn't cover you, that, who's that?
Wisconsin Association of School Boards. And it was meant particularly for new members, new training, updates on, where the income and expenses were coming from and going. It was
Do you have a comment, Bill?
Where are these meetings held? All in the same location, or does it vary around the state?
Mine was in the Wisconsin Dells. I attended one in the Dells and one in Portage.
Mr. Marion?
Milwaukee, Madison, Stevens Point, and some of them may be ones where they may not even have a charge for it. Like there's one in Stevens Point in a couple of weeks, which I may attend, that talks about school governance, talks about the legislature. There is one in Milwaukee every year, which is hosted by the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, the School Administrators Association, and the Wisconsin Business Association. WEAC is not involved with that, and so that's one that we would attend to.
So do the legislators show up?
Sometimes they'll show up to the ones. They will definitely show up to like ones we have up where it's called like Capitol Day. We actually go to the Capitol. There's also one that we will have. It's called. It's kind of review the what's happening in the Capitol, and sometimes the legislators do come to those too. So it's a way to keep our obviously our face in front of our legislators too. So.
Yes. But school board members also have the individual discretion on whether they want to submit those expenses for reimbursement or not. So school board members can simply choose not to turn in any expenses, not to turn in any mileage, not to ask you to compensate in any way for that. So, the school board members also have that discretion.
Absolutely.
Along with...
Are any of these meetings out of state?
No. Well, not anything that would be reimbursed from the school boards. We used to be a member of the National Association of School Boards. We are no longer. So nothing that we would do, anybody can correct me if I'm misspeaking, but...
Well, Doug has attended, but through a different role, and that was supported by a different organization.
I belong to the CISA Board of Control. It's overseeing 35 school districts, and so that's a different board. So Doug says, I went to the National School Board Convention. That was paid and supported by a different board. So, in which I don't think is germane to this discussion, but it certainly is something that I gained benefit that this board would benefit from. Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have a ballpark figure how much this costs every year?
I don't, and I will also tell you that I've been on the board 11 years. I've never turned in a mile. I've never turned in a parking meter ticket. I've never turned in anything. That's just my decision. I don't hold it against anybody that does. They're entitled to do that according to the resolution. I don't have the dollar figure.
In my year on the board, I've not turned in any reimbursements.
I don't know where it would show up in.
And I don't turn in mileage, just the conference fee.
Yes.
With regard to that mileage and expenses, you are legal to take them off your income tax. So, regardless if you turn them in or not, you can be reimbursed. I did it for 40 years as a salesman on the road, so I know what's going on.
But it's a little different reimbursement schedule when you're in for insurance board.
No, it isn't. No. No, it isn't.
Okay. Call the question.
All right. Those in favor of Resolution B 2012, reimbursement of school board members, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, signify by saying nay. Nay. We're going to do hands. First, those in support of the motion by a show of hands. got it.
I got you.
By a show of hands, those opposed. Resolution passed 32 to 13. Brings us to Resolution C, 2012, Student Accident Insurance. Be it resolved by the electors of the School District of Baraboo that the school board be authorized to furnish student accident insurance and appropriate funds for that purpose.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
We got both the primary and second.
Discussion?
Well, first of all, why don't you explain it? I mean, the accident insurance, is that going to and from school or just during school activity, or what's it for? And have you never had a policy for that before?
No, we've
Yeah.
had it for years.
Yeah,
Had it for years.
Yeah.
it's an annual renewal of the policy, and it covers all students related to school activities.
So that's what this is, it's just an annual renewal?
Yep. It's the annual renewal of the policy. No.
Yes, Rosa.
When you say appropriate funds, are you talking about the district pays this or our students charge?
The district pays this.
The district pays this?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, by saying nay. Resolution E, 2012, Tax for Operation Debt and Community Service. Be it resolved by the electors of the School District of Baraboo that a tax be levied on all taxable property of the district in an total amount of $13,080,839 to include $12,590,695 for Fund 10 General Operations, $241,369 for Fund 30 Debt Service, and $248,775 for Fund 80 Community Service. Entertaining a motion for that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion
We have both.
and a second.
And a second.
Discussion? Yes.
I guess, I don't understand what makes up this whole thing, so I'm kind of ignorant here, I apologize for that. But I guess I find it hard to believe that we spent so much money on this football field and track, and the budget was so tight. I guess it baffles me why we would do that. I mean, I don't have a clue why that kind of money was being spent. I mean, you must have just gone through some process to figure that out. It just doesn't seem relevant to me to spend money on something like that. Had teachers.
We didn't cut teachers.
But that was a story. That was a story.
Whose story?
That was a storyline
Not our story. Not for me.
a year ago now.
Mr. Vedro, I believe, is who you're speaking of.
I don't know. But I mean,
You better clarify that, because if you're going to put something on my plate,
Hang on, Peter. Hang on. We're going to ask that people raise their hands to be recognized by the chair if they wish to speak, please.
and I know that's in this levy, and I guess I tried to figure out, oh, it's been paid for last year. Was it budgeted in last year's levy? So that's coming in this year's levy?
I can clarify that, some of the numbers.
Please do.
Of the track project, an opportunity came in last year's budget to allocate about $500,000 toward that track project. And that's what got put into last year's budget with the decision that the balance would have to come out of fund balance. Okay, with a fund balance teetering around 18%, it was decided that that would be where it came from. Now, that $500,000 included the complete scope of that project, but did not include additional post-construction things. So in other words, we paid for the drainage, we paid for the track, and we paid for the field and the foundation, but the signage was done through fundraising. The entry gate is going to be done through fundraising. Additional things that are beyond general construction, like bleachers and press boxes and concession stands, will all be done through fundraising. You know, this board made a commitment to bring that track up to standards. If you had been on it before, you would notice that you couldn't go a foot or two without seeing a pothole or a crack. You know, we had water problems. It was in pretty bad deteriorated state. So the whole thing had to come out. It was an opportunity to do a project of that size, and the board made it the priority.
Also, Dwayne, the track was the main concern, but by doing the track, we also had to do the football field inside of it because we wouldn't be able to tackle the drainage problems and other things that was problems with the football field. So we had to do both of them at about approximately the same time. Meanwhile, over the course of the years, like Kevin said, some of his fund balance, we had excess funds. We didn't really have excess funds, but we didn't have enough to do big projects. So we scraped up a little bit, saved a little bit here to cover that bigger project. That's where it's coming out of fund balance. Stuff they've been sort of saving a little bit here. We weren't going to be able to have some track meets on it and other limitations by WIA. So it was going to be useless. We didn't repair it.
Yes.
And we did have meetings and stuff, and the consensus of people at the meetings was to repair it.
Kevin, what is Fund 80 Community Service?
I'll defer the answer to that question to our Director of Business Services. Or Sean. I mean,
The Fund 80 is the things of, like Kit Stop, the pool operation,
Some of driver's ed.
driver's ed, actually flow through those
Some of the
funds.
ag program.
When you look at page 6 of Fund 80, it's the last item. It includes community education and agricultural education. But if you turn over to page 16, you will notice that in 2012-2013, there is no agricultural education or community education. So my question is, why would they be included on page 6 as part of that description when community service is actually only the pool?
well, you're looking at the designation of community education, which is a subcategory of the community service fund, which is 80.
Right, that's what I'm telling you. It's telling you on page 6 it's included in Fund 80, but in the monies that you've allocated in the $248,775, but when you go to page 16, you have no agriculture.
Well, but on page 6, that's just a description of the services. And under community service funds is the description of community education. We had community education as a program in the district. It was eliminated several years ago.
You need to revise your definitions, is what I'm saying.
No,
That's
those
not
are
our definition.
Statewide
That's a
definition.
state definition?
That's not our
But
definition.
the Faribault School District chooses to have no agriculture or community service, right?
We have agriculture on page 16.
Funding for it.
No funding.
There's no funding for it, Kevin.
Okay.
In ag, there is.
And again, I think there may be some confusion. We do have an agricultural education department, but some of it, obviously, there must be some public community services that get covered by our community.
I think the majority of that is summer programming.
That summer
Kids
program.
fair.
So that's like something where, okay, so it can be covered, but we do have like, we do have a community, we do have an agriculture department, but that's a separate thing.
Yeah, and
Right,
Jerry
some-
has served
right.
on that committee for years.
I guess what the difference is here, George kept, when he was ag instructor here, he had summer programs that are been changed somewhat by the new ag instructor here. We still have programs and stuff, but George's, the compensation on ag ed was part of the compensate George for his summer work and stuff like that. Where Jennifer's got stuff with the FFA and the different things, but not to the extent that George had it at the time.
Jack, where are you seeing that it said no, there's no funding for ag?
I'm looking at the top up here. where you have, on page 16, page
I think
16.
it shows $3,911 of that.
Right.
And there's no X for ag for the 12 and 13 budget. And there's nothing for 11 and 12 and 12 and 13 for community education. Now in the next grouping, you show community education of revenue of nothing all the way across.
No, I follow that, but also right above where it says community education and there's nothing, there's $3,911 for agricultural education.
Yeah, but I'm looking up on the top of that, Kevin,
Where the X's go.
where the X's are, okay?
Somebody missed an X.
I think we missed an X.
Okay, all right, well, you know,
Looks like to me.
yeah. But that's what I was calling to attention.
Understood.
I think, Jack, maybe something that might fall under community education would be if we were paying some of our staff to teach Spanish to parents or community members or things like that might fall under community ed. We don't do anything of that nature, and that's why we have 0 under that category, and we haven't marked that for a couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none and having a motion on the floor, I ask that those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Nay. Does anybody that was here and heard the vote request that we do a hand vote? We can go through the motions that you desire.
Except the voice vote.
Okay. Thank you. Brings us to the portion of the agenda for new business, I think. Business from the floor.
Number 1.
Business from the floor. We're at D on the annual meeting. Or I'm sorry, E, business from the floor. E is in Edward, business from the floor. Is there any business from the floor? If there is, please approach the microphone and state your name.
I'm hoping that this is germane. My name is Jim Kremsreiter, and for weeks, or a couple of months, we've been hearing the board has a problem with Ed Mortimer. And Ed Mortimer has gone to court to get something released.
You need to entertain it as a form of a motion. It's not a comment stage. It's not. If you want to
Okay,
entertain a motion to the
I
floor.
move that the board releases immediately their findings or their problems with Ed Mortimer.
Okay.
I'm going to comment on this as the parliamentarian. The only subjects that are subject to motion and then discussion at an annual meeting are the statutory issues, and that is not one of them. So that's something that would have to be addressed at another forum.
Okay, then how do we get information from the board as to what their problem is with Ed Mortimer? We as taxpayers have a right to know.
Sir, that's something that you can address to the district office or to speak with a board member about.
I'd be more than happy to call you. I'll call you. Give me your number. I'm more than happy to call
Are you
you.
going to release it to the newspaper?
Pardon me?
Are you going to release it to the newspaper?
It's going to be released to everybody that it can be released to when a timeline passes, which there was notifications that had to take place, and when those notifications take place, it will be released, yes, to the newspaper.
Did you review the process?
It's not germane to what we're talking about, so I'm not going to review the process. I'd still be more than happy to call you.
Jim, make a motion to spend more money on this.
Okay, then I make a motion that no more money is spent on Ed Mortimer's, whatever problem you have with Ed Mortimer.
And I'm going to identify that motion as out of order once again. So the only further business that can come before this group has to be business that relates to the power of the annual meeting electors and none other. So that subject is not properly addressed in this forum and will not be any further tonight, please.
Any further business from the floor? Any further business from the floor? Any further business from the floor? Hearing none, seeing none, there's a motion. Is there a second to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Both primary and second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, to go home anyway.
Right.